I mean, it's been a while since we had a cold open with Laura singing, so I think that's a goodie right there.
It will be copyrighted.
No, it won't. That's savage.
So mean.
Welcome to Mere Christianity. My name is Jonty.
Have we started out the order yet?
The order.
What?
Oh, wow.
The order hasn't changed.
The order of the people.
It's never changed. But Laura, you're the one who paused there.
It was because there was my internet was weird.
Do you think the listeners are like, they have come to expect that we're going to be a shambles, but they're like, fingers crossed this episode, and they're like,
they'll get it right.
Hell, guys.
Nope, still not.
I assumed that I go second because I'm a girl.
What does that mean? Second out of three?
because then it's sexist if I'm put last.
That's true. Although, yeah, that's fair. No, that's solid. I like it.
Yeah. You go first.
Yeah. Ooh.
No, but it's
Laura.
not my podcast.
Laura, you go. Welcome to Beer Christianity. I'm Laura.
Oh.
Well, this is a big moment.
I don't like it.
Go. You can do it.
Oh, you actually don't need to do it.
You can do it. Go.
I'm not going to do it. I'm too flustered. I'm not going to do it without laughing. No, I don't want to do it. It's weird.
Just try. If it doesn't work, we'll do something else.
I've got a better idea. Welcome to Beer Christianity. I'm Jonty.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Malky.
That worked rather well. Okay. I can live with that. So in this episode, you're going to hear a whole bunch of different things. We don't have a featured interview. We don't even have a bit of Tom Wright, which is pretty disappointing. Hey guys.
Yeah, pretty rubbish.
We're so sorry.
Yeah, we're really sorry. We know you come here primarily for the old interviews with Tom Wright, but
for Jonty's 10-year-old interviews. That's what everyone's here for.
Guys, I have a Richard Raw one, which is really, really cool, which I plan on cracking out and milking like nothing has been milked before. So, you can look forward to that.
To be fair, it gives us street cred, man. You say to somebody that we had Noam Chomsky on the podcast, and they're like, oh, damn. And it's like, yeah.
Yeah, no worries.
No worries.
Honestly, having Ilan Pape on the podcast is actually kind of a big deal.
Very big deal. If you haven't listened to it yet, go listen to that episode.
Go to the previous episode. So good, all about Israel and Palestine, and just really, really cool. In this one, though, you can hear us talking a little bit more about COVID and churches. What else, guys? What else do we talk about?
Our lovely listeners.
We do talk about our lovely listeners.
And the lovely things they have to say.
That is true. Wait, you were saying something and I interrupted you. It was such a beautiful thing.
It wasn't going to be beautiful. It's going to be quite disparaging. I was just going to say, just stick any old thing in an email or the speak pipe and we'll definitely cover it.
I mean, you're not wrong.
You're not wrong.
But also, you should send us really thought-provoking stuff that we can talk about. Because, if you do send that, then we might dedicate a whole episode to you.
Yeah, because we have done that in the past. So. And this week we have one on the concept of epiphany and a specific epiphany that came from a listener called Paul. And it's really very cool and very deep and very intense. And then we also have something from a listener who commented on our YouTube channel, which is kind of unusual, and said some things that we're not entirely sure we understand. So you should listen to this so that you can tell us if you understand better what they're saying, because we weren't certain. Yeah.
But we interpreted it as him agreeing with us, which we agree with.
Yeah. So, M85, you're all right. Yeah. So anyway, you've got all of that to look forward to in this episode. If you want to find other episodes, you can get us at beerchristianity.libsyn.com. You can find us on all major podcasty type things. And don't forget that we have other ways to contact us, which I'm sure we talk about in this episode. So enjoy.
Enjoy.
How's lockdown treating you?
So great. I mean, it feels like nothing has changed. Like, I was in tier 4 and I'm basically just nothing has changed. Like, I don't have kids.
Yeah.
So it's all the same.
Did you expect the government to give you kids just because it's coronavirus? Because I'm entitled thinking.
I think that's the cue for me to go, you can have, I've got a couple of kids you can have.
That's all right, Malky. You can keep them.
That's not, listeners. That's not because Malky has children. It's because he works for that QAnon thing that you've been reading about, and he's been selling it via Wayfair. So
on a coffee table. If you know what I mean.
This is so weird. I don't know I know what's more horrifying, but a part of me doesn't know what's more horrifying. The idea that you would charge $10,000 for like a very crap normal piece of furniture, or the purported conspiracy just seems really weird. Yeah. How has the lockdown been for you, Malky? We're in lockdown 3 now. Is that what this is?
Lockdown 3.
Sure. One day at a time. I have the children.
Yeah.
Unlike Laura.
You have all the children.
All of them in the world. They're all with Malky.
Yeah.
Please pray for him.
We have to look after them and teach them things. So
to be completely different from normal time then.
Art and design and PE. Yes, it isn't. It's different.
I'm joking.
Don't push parents at this time, Laura. They do not have a sense of humor about this stuff.
The moment that came out of my mouth, I was like, no, that's too far.
Have you tried looking at the English language from a child's perspective? It makes no sense.
No, children are dumb.
Oh, yeah. No, the English language is dumb.
Wow, you really love your kids. No, Malky, your children are dumb.
I didn't say your children are dumb.
Laura thinks your specific children are dumb. You better hope your wife never hears this episode.
I don't think your children are dumb. I think your children are very smart. On the record, I think Malky's children are very smart children.
Thank you. I'm not commenting on their dumbness. It's more just the dumbness.
I think you probably should, Malky. I think you should probably resist that notion. Yeah, but the English language is in answer to your question, yes, because I was once a child learning the English language.
Yeah. But like writing and reading, you know what I mean? Especially
again, is that the most Scottish use on it? Writing and reading, you know what I mean?
And you're trying to pronounce.
That's just too much.
You're trying to pronounce words to English people. And my son is one of them.
Does he go like, Daddy, I don't understand what you're saying?
Exactly like that.
He is cockney. He is an orphan child from the Victorian time.
I've just been down the apples and pears.
Where Malky pulls his son out from cleaning the chimney to give him his lessons.
That's it. We're getting him on.
That would be amazing. Also, what a journey this intro has taken if it ended with you then actually putting your child on the podcast.
Waking him up.
Daddy, I'm so tired. Crying. It's time for fame, son. And then to clean the chimneys. Good. That's good. Chim chimney, chim chimney, chim chim chiroo, and stuff. Good. In this episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about one of our previous episodes because these guys didn't get to comment on it. And if you listen to the last one with Ilan Pape, all about Israel-Palestine, you may have heard them bitching and moaning about not getting enough time to discuss things. So we'll talk a little bit more about that on this one. We'll also and share some thoughts and feelings and views. And then we'll also talk a little bit about the Amy Aitken episode where we're talking about churches being closed because of COVID and some of the stuff that was on the Beer Christianity newsletter. If you don't know what the Beer Christianity newsletter is, it's probably a good time to tell you that the Beer Christianity newsletter is a newsletter called Beer Christianity. And that's really it. It does have some Beer Christianity content in it, but generally speaking, it's me or somebody who I get as a guest writer to who comes and writes an opinion on something. And the last one of the last ones that I recorded was Amy Aitken, friend to the podcast and recent guest on the show, talking a little bit more about churches bitching and moaning about being closed so that people don't die of COVID-19, which yeah, I don't know. What did you guys think of that episode?
Well, my main takeaway is she said I sounded like David Tennant. So I'll take that.
Yeah. I also had somebody say to me about you that they thought that you were just so funny. I just love listening to Malky. He's just so funny. And I was just like, I don't really hear it, but yeah, that's why I'm joking.
I wanted to say, was it your wife? Because I know she likes me, but that might sound like, oh, it was probably your wife.
She doesn't like you. She thinks you're hot.
Yeah, I'm self-conscious about my voice and don't want to sound like a mad Ned. You're going
to have to unpack Ned for people who aren't Neds.
I think it's similar to the word chav, but we had it first.
It's specifically
Is yours
Scottish.
an acronym though?
I think people have made it an acronym, but I don't think it was in the first place.
Yeah, same as chav, I think, actually.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Non-educated delinquent, I've heard. But yeah.
House of Violence is cooler.
Yeah,
that's true.
But yeah, it's less middle class. If you know what I mean, the term like chav is very much like middle class people use that to talk about working class people.
Whereas do Neds call each other Neds?
I don't know. I guess so. Or it might be proud to be a Ned. Man, I'm out of the loop. So I feel bad talking about it. But the main thing is I don't sound like a Ned. I sound like to make David Tennant. So obviously I looked him up and
you never heard of David Tennant?
What?
No, where specifically is from?
Yeah, come on, national treasure.
The point is, it's not some not to offend you nice people, not some English person.
I'm not English.
He's not.
Yeah.
He's also in How to Train Your Dragon, fun fact.
I am.
Jonty is the star of How to Train Your Dragon.
I am that cute little dragon. Manglepoof is my name, my dragon name, Manglepoof. Very cute little round teeth, gigantic eyes, and an enormous penis.
So it turns out Manglepoof was born in Bathgate. I lived in Bathgate.
Really?
And his dad is a minister of the church. And so is my dad.
Freaking way.
Are you the same person?
But then he went to grow up mostly on the West Coast, and I grew up mostly on the East Coast. So our accents are probably different.
So you like rival rappers? You like Biggie and Tupac, or were they from different coasts? I don't know.
Well, I think Biggie and Tupac, I think they were from the same coast.
Damn it.
I know more about the rap scene.
Scotland.
The east and west coast of Scotland don't really bother fighting with each other.
Okay.
West coast have got enough going on fighting with each other. It's just like, East coast is just a bunch of like Edinburgh fannies that they don't even bother with.
I mean, that particular term is going to come back when we read a listener message and its opening lines. So you just keep that in mind for later in the show, because I think that's going to be good. I always loved, Malky, you talking about the growing up as a kind of a slightly Neddy lad in Scotland, and just the kind of sayings that you guys had. Do you have any of those sayings?
Wow. If I'd been prepped,
okay,
I could have rattled some off. Just now, I just feel like I'm reading like those coasters you get. Scottish ones written numpty.
Also, David Tennant and the whole kind of Doctor Who thing. Have you ever been in a prayer group where people have those kind of like verbal tics when they're praying, where they're like, Lord, Father, please, yes, Lord, and just have you ever made yourself laugh while praying because of the ridiculousness of a phrase that you just said? Because I remember saying, Lord, if you could just give us the Time Lord to, and I was just like, Time Lord, and just fell apart and it completely ruined the prayer group, which was a low point. I feel like you guys ever said the term Time Lord in a prayer and then felt stupid about it?
Practically not. No, I'm so sorry.
I've done that one. I've not like years since I've been in an actual proper church setting like that. But like I remember praying. This is when I was a student and we're all gathered around praying for each other, and we were all praying for this person. I didn't know her name. I was supposed to, Like we were friends.
Oh,
Forgot
that's
her
a
name.
nightmare.
There was lots of like our dear sister and all that Christianese.
You suddenly become a Pentecostal. Like, when you don't know somebody's name, suddenly that stuff, that's all right. Suddenly,
Bless this mighty woman of God.
Why did you pray first? Surely just wait for somebody else to pray and
No,
say
but
her
sometimes
name.
sometimes you miss your chance, especially if you're in like a home group and like everyone's going to pray for everyone else's prayer things. If you don't know the name of the new person, if somebody's brought their boyfriend or they're like, or there's a new person, or you weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
And then you lose tracks to the point where you're like, shit, the only things I remember have already been said. So now I'm going to either leave this person unprayed for, which will probably mean they go to hell, or I'm going to have to pray the most vague, Lord, and just, all the prayers that have been said and those that have been unsaid.
That is, to be fair, the best thing about Zoom is that everyone's names are written at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to die when I have to be in normal society again. I can't just look down and see somebody's name because I'm never going to remember everyone's name from this point onwards.
See, these are the positive things about lockdown that I think we've failed to really, get in on.
Silver linings, guys.
Yeah.
Come on, it's not as bad as you think.
Oh man, Malky.
Did this start with you asking us about the Amy episode?
Yeah, it did actually. Two or 300 years ago, I asked, "What did you think of Amy Aiken?" I'm sure you guys have read thoroughly the now probably a few weeks old article that I published at beerchristianity.substack.com. Where you can sign up for the newsletter. So what did you, Laura? What did you think of that particular issue of the newsletter?
Listen, my Google inbox is weird, and my Beer Christianity newsletter goes into some weird fucking folder that I can never remember exists. So I didn't get a notification for the email, so I haven't read it. Apologies.
Oh, that's all right. No, that's fine. That's fine. I think we can just talk to you about the episode and what Amy said on it.
It's a funny thing.
Is your podcast inbox also a little bit weird?
Yeah, it's weird. Oh. Got a weird inbox, man. Oh. Yeah, I haven't listened to that particular one. I was going to.
It's good. It's a great advert.
I hope Amy doesn't listen to other episodes.
Not because of Amy. I was actually like, I should listen to this one because I wasn't on it and I should know what was said. And then I did not do that. So I might listen to it again. Next time.
Well, Malky, you listened to it. So can you give Laura a rundown?
Yes.
Oh, you did listen to it. That is not what I was expecting.
He already said that he sounded like David Tennant in it. So
that's
what started this whole other ramble.
I didn't listen to Malky talking. I
think we all need to learn a lesson in listening.
Oh, you fucking need to learn a lesson. Malky, elucidate.
Right, I don't know if I can give her a rundown.
Well, what did you like and not like? What was your thoughts?
I liked there was an actual live example / real situation that someone's facing. Pressure to go one way or the other, and she's having to deal with that and sort of lead people in a direction, which is cool. And compared to certain people who just like talk on Zoom about theoretical issues that don't really affect them.
What kind of asshole?
So yeah, I'm looking for a better phrase than her pastoral heart. She's like,
she's a phenomenal pastor. I think that's really cool. I'm sure that, Britain and Scotland are full of phenomenal pastors, but this one happens to be a friend of mine. And I just think she's really great at that. Like she won't jump on a bandwagon left or right. Actually, she wants to make sure that the impact on the church is good. And, she was super concerned about not looking like one part of the church is publicly sniping at another part of the church. Because because that's just so damaging to our witness, which I thought was really cool as well, because I do not mind doing that. But it's kind of my thing. No, I actually totally hear what she's saying about that as well. So yeah, that's cool. And the pastoral heart is strong with that one.
Yeah, but like the work on the ground, you know, like dropping off parcels for people, like you know, folks in the congregation that can't get like my brother's very involved in his church, and they've been like posting out CDs to people of the recorded services, just the things like that, just the legwork to look after folks that would potentially be left out of the loop by lockdown, Zoom, online church, and all that we can quite glibly be like, get over it. Yeah, you know, get online. It's fine. It's not forever.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like it's so easy for those of us who are quite fond of the internet and doing things online, doing things remotely and digitally and stuff, to just go
not leaving the house.
And super fond of not leaving the house.
Yeah,
that was crazy with the first lockdown. Like me and my wife realized, we don't like getting ready and going to things.
Yeah, man. I actually shout out to all the churches out there who are doing such great work, because it's not just the fact that people who can't get online to the services are still being visited and phoned and having stuff dropped off for them. And I know of churches that are printing out like the notices or the emails that have come around, or like, you know, sending, you know, kind of notes on what the sermon was for people who couldn't actually join on Zoom or YouTube or whatever. It's not just that, though. It's not just the kind of doing church and helping people be part of like Sunday service stuff. It's the food parcels and the getting involved in the local response to COVID, and just all of that sort of stuff, the kind of mutual aid stuff that's happening with churches. I just think it's very cool to see the church doing that. Not in a kind of like, oh, I'm so glad this happened, but just I'm so glad that this is the way so many churches are responding. And that so many churches have been so careful with the lives of people that might be affected if they were gathering in large numbers, that they've just been quite willing to go, yep, we should shut down our meeting in person. We're not just going to leave people out. We're going to try really hard to include them, but we're also not going to become a vector for people to die of COVID-19, you know?
Yeah. And it's those, you know, by definition, those loud, marginal handful of voices that have been campaigning, you know, shouting oppression or whatever, that the vast majority have just been quietly getting on with things and making life better for people and trying to foster a sense of community in these difficult times. Yeah,
it's very cool. Laura, I mean, your church has been occasionally meeting, but like what's your thoughts on the thing that with Amy Aitken was that there are a group of, let's call them concerned Christians, who are trying to mount a legal challenge to the government of Scotland, because the government of Scotland has essentially told churches, you may not meet to worship because it spreads COVID-19, and it's not strictly necessary to meet. And they've been like, this is persecution. And obviously a whole bunch. The Baptist Union of Scotland had a great statement coming back going like, no, we're meant to love our neighbors. And that means, you know, not letting them die of a disease that they could avoid.
I think it's a valid point.
Yeah, you think. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think I said some of this in the voice notes, and I assume you also put that on the podcast.
I did put it on the podcast.
I didn't listen to it, so I wouldn't know. I think so. My church is still meeting, but I've kind of made the decision to not go, just because I think that's just, I think because I before Christmas, I was self-isolating with the intent to go back and see my parents, which did not happen, but it's fine. And like,
you want to tell the nice people why that happened?
My parents both had coronavirus. My mum went into hospital on Christmas Eve. I hope they don't mind me telling this on the podcast. I mean, I definitely asked my mum if she would be on the podcast, so that was fine. So maybe cut that bit out, spoilers.
What? No. Or is your mom basically like, look, if my story's going to be on the podcast, I want to be on it. I want the limelight. I want the glory.
yeah, my parents both had COVID. My mum was in hospital from Christmas Eve to the 3rd of January, so like over the whole of Christmas. Was very, very close to be putting on a ventilator, but did not, which was very good. Still recovering. But yeah, I was not able to go home for Christmas, so I spent Christmas with Jonty because it was, the next best thing. And we watched Miss Congeniality and The Prom, which was a great time.
That was actually great.
It was great. We did nearly watch a film called The Christmas Dragon, which I was very on board with because there's a clip in the trailer where the dragon pulls Father Christmas's sleigh. Was very on board with that, but we decided Miss Congeniality was the way to go.
Yeah, a bit mainly because my wife was like, abso-fucking-lutely
yes,
not.
Anna was not on board with The Christmas Dragon.
I also campaigned quite hard for a film called Ghost Shark 2, Urban Jaws, which
also looked amazing.
I still think we should have watched, but yeah.
That's fair. That's valid. Anyway, I was already kind of self-isolating from that, so it kind of felt weird to then go back to church. And also, I'm not gonna lie, my church is like across Oxford, and I have to cycle there at like 10 o'clock in the morning, which is kind of effort.
And the weather in this country is
freezing.
Yeah.
It's very cold outside. So yes, I've just figured it's kind of safest to just stay at home because like I have to, I still have to go to the shops and stuff like that, so to buy my food. So yeah, let's minimize contact with people. But I also I think something you brought up, well, I think this is what you kind of wrote about in the newsletter about how like the debate of whether like Christians it is important, or like how important it is for Christians to be meeting together in person. And actually I kind of disagree and agree with that, because as much as I do definitely agree that fellowship in person is very important and beneficial, and like it is a really good thing to be able to meet together, I can also say with absolute certainty that being on my own and doing that on my own, like doing church on my own essentially, has strengthened my faith so much more. Like I have always been quite a self-conscious Christian, and actually just being me and the Lord has been like amazing for my faith. So like actually I have, and I've kind of felt, and I understand that people are really sad about the fact they can't meet together, and I get that, and I understand it's a difficult thing, but also I feel like churches a lot of the time are doing very unhelpful things by pointing it out. Like they'll say, I've heard people say in church of like, well, we'll stand up and not sing for the songs, and like the band will sing, but we'll stand up and not sing. But
why?
Like, yeah,
I'm
like, or you could say, or you could, well, this, and actually, like, it's good to stand up. I found it far better to stand up, but also it's the point is like, well, we're still worshiping. Like I can still worship and not sing, and like, don't point out the negative parts of it. Point out the things that you can still do. Like we can still worship. We don't have to sing, and like. Yes, it's sad, and I fully understand that it's sad, and like I obviously don't understand I'm not going to be able to experience everyone's experiences of like being like living alone or having to shield and stuff like that, and I totally get that is like a really difficult thing for people. But also, if that's not your situation, that you can kind of try and see it in a different way, because I think it is helpful to see it in a different way.
Yeah, Malky, what do you feel about the whole kind of like needing to be with people? For church and for worship and for the kind of the spiritual life.
I don't know. The need is the funny word, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I don't know that I think about faith and spirituality in terms of need. Like it feels to me like a theological question to the point of like stuff that organizations have in their creeds and their doctrinal statements about what the church is or isn't, or this means it's church, this means it isn't, kind of thing. And I'm not that interested in that. You know what I mean? Like,
I guess it's that thing when people say like, this online church stuff is fine for now, but it's not real church, and you can't be fully fed by a purely remote digital community, and you can't be that is not the ideal Christian life.
Yeah, well, it's those kind of questions. Yeah, ideal or like, I guess we're all just. I'm trying to think of.
I think those are two different.
Wanky.
I think those are almost two different things. Of like it's not the ideal Christian life. Well, of course, it's not the ideal Christian life. Like,
well, you say, of course, but I think a lot of people. This is what I'm saying is that I don't think it is, of course.
I don't. Well, this is like I don't think it's ideal that it's just you. Well, see, now I'm second guessing, but like I don't think it is the ideal Christian life in that like I do think that we are like it is easier and better to be able to meet together in person. Like I don't think we can say that it's not. It's like it's easier for for providing fellowship to people who aren't part of the church already. Like that is obviously a difficult thing to do when you're not in person. However, you can still make it work and have meaningful and like grow in your faith in this way. Not meeting in person. Point, case closed.
Because I guess, for example, so my church, we don't, or back when we did normal church, don't do singing, so they don't do worship in that sense. And I've had at least one person who I've told that to, and they've just been like, "Huh? How does the from a very traditional background, that's just like, well, that doesn't count. Like that's not church. Like you need sung worship, communal worship, and I don't know. I just feel like how we define things has got like I just feel like it's very it's much more fluid than that. I guess I feel like the reason we define things a lot of the time is out of like wanting to box things in. Okay, this is in, this counts, this isn't. All right, they're doing communion and they're singing to worship and there's a ordained person at the front. That is church. They're registered with a group or something. Whereas like just people meeting together, sharing some stuff.
Yeah, I think I totally agree that you don't want to be boxing stuff in and trying to define it and all that kind of thing. It's more that thing of when this all blows over and we can all go and have a pint at the pub after church. Are we genuinely when some people go, actually, I'm not coming back to church because during lockdown, I realized that a bunch of my Christian friends and I could meet every now and then on Zoom, or we started a WhatsApp group, or I'm listening to sermons and I'm kind of cool with that, plus one or two Christian friends who I can ask to pray for me and who ask to pray, who ask me to pray. So I don't actually think I need physically proximate church anymore. Or I moved to another country and actually I'm still meeting with my old house group in the country I came from. And so, which are two very different ideas, but I think they're both ones that would probably be resisted. And I guess I'm resisting the resistance they would face that would say that's not real church.
And so would you not count the first as physically proximate church?
No, because they're just online. They're never meeting together.
But if it's, but you can never say you're never going to meet them in person though.
I think it's the idea is that we're never going to plan to meet in person to do church stuff.
Right, yeah, fair.
Or we may be all over the city or all over the country.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, I guess it's just it's the language and how that's framed. So I guess I'm thinking when you're posing these questions, well, who's making this person? Or you know what I mean? Like I guess that's fine. They're free to do them. Like if
they ask your advice, Malky, do you think that's a healthy way to live as a Christian?
Sure. Like I'd want to know. I guess I'd ask them questions like, what does it mean for you to be a Christian? If they're...
How many books are there in the Bible?
Exactly. What's your favorite Bible verse?
It's the one from Ezekiel about the donkeys.
Yeah. Like if they're trying to follow Jesus and, have a relationship with God and are loving their neighbor as themselves. And I guess the main thing is isolating yourself in a little bubble. But hopefully, like if you're really communing with God and serving God through meeting other people, then that's going to expand what you're involved in. And like I think it's important. I don't know what the scenario is, but I guess the danger, the quote unquote danger, is that you surround yourself with a couple of yes men and then you never change, nothing about you is challenged.
And that's the real strength of like traditional churches, that you never get into a bubble, you never get surrounded by people who all think the same thing, and there's no real chance of just a kind of feedback loop because it's always just a dynamic, ever-changing, radically diverse in both demographics and ideas kind of place. From mega church to really tiny parochial church, they're maelstroms and female stroms and intersex stroms. Well,
this is all the hesitance in my voice, because I'm like, yeah, it was really well put, and I hadn't thought of that. But yeah, the reverse is also true of like someone quote unquote on their own. If they're feeling a need to go out and serve people, then they're probably hooking up with a local charity that's helping the homeless, doing stuff like that. They're going to be interacting with others. Maybe they're Christian, maybe they're not. Maybe they're meeting Jesus through that. Maybe they're having a spiritual experience. That's great. That's furthering their spiritual life and making them a better person.
Where I would probably have difficulty with it is when people have said to me in the past, yeah, I don't go to church anymore. My church is my pub. And I'm like, it's not a church. That is, it already has a name. It's widely understood as a pub. You might be doing church and pub, and like I definitely have met, like you say, you meet with Jesus when you're doing like soup runs to rough sleepers or whatever, and I've definitely experienced that really strongly. But yeah, I don't know. It's just an interesting thing. And I just think we're going to have to think about this stuff more than perhaps we're, allowing ourselves to currently, because we're just trying to get through it. I don't think we're not going to have to face these questions when the serious lockdown ends.
Yeah. I think it's dead interesting because I've not thought about it for myself, but I just realized that I'm now in this place where my framework has totally changed. In the past, I would have been like, we need these policies. The church should be this. This is what the people need to do. And this is what's going to help them most. Whereas now I'm just like, who's telling the people to do that? Yeah. And people are independent, free people. If they're not going to go to that definition of church, me deciding on it isn't going to change that. They're going to do their own thing. And it's just that sort of free kind of organic, wait a minute, Jesus used examples like yeast going all about the place or whatever.
Yeah. Yeast seeds. I believe that was the yeast seeds. If you have faith as big as one of these yeasts, you and Muhammad will come to the mountain. And I think that's the way. It's been a while since I read the Bible. What are you guys drinking, by the way? Lolo?
Yes.
Are you on the Jack and Coke?
Obviously. What else would I be drinking?
Malky.
Finished my Jack as well.
Nice.
I know. Well, it's not nice. I don't know. I'll buy more.
You're right. I don't know why I said nice. That was a horribly insensitive thing to say. I apologize.
It's expensive.
Wholeheartedly. Malkster, what you drinking? You still on the lamb's milk?
Goats. Bud Zero. Which is all right. It's fine. But the other day I had one left that I was saving. I was saving for a Beer Christianity because it was mildly more interesting. Oh no, just because it tastes nice and I wanted to plug it. It was called Lucky Saint.
I do like Lucky Saint. That's nice.
Again, a rare non-alcoholic beer that's dead nice. I'm not drinking that, so.
Oh, what are you drinking? Bud Zero.
Bud Zero, yeah.
Lamb's milk. Bud Zero. That thing, I had this one. It was like you said. Okay, cool. I'm on Brewdog Nanny State, which is one of the classics, and it's rather nice, alcohol free as well. Yeah.
So you can get alcohol free whiskey. You can get alcohol free gin.
Can you?
You can.
I've had
Sorry.
I tried the
As things come up on the screen, playing music.
That's going to get copyrighted.
Laura, it didn't come up when you were singing earlier.
No.
Sorry, Malky.
They do spirits I've seen that
Yeah.
are like non-alcoholic, but they are not. I mean,
Seedlet
obviously,
is awful.
the first thing I did was drink it straight just to see.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not, no.
Yeah, I'm not anticipating that it's going to be good.
Except for Three Spirit. That's really good. There are, when I got into Three Spirit, I started looking for other ones that, might get you like your mood elevated or get you slightly buzzed or whatever. And none of them do except Three Spirit. But there are a few. There's one that's like properly done the same way whiskey is done in the Highlands of Scotland as well. That is alcohol free. And I can't remember what it's called. I will report back.
Thank you. Does the Free Spirit stuff actually work?
It definitely makes me happier. And the first few times I drank it, yes,
okay,
yes, it is. It's got loads of herbs and mushrooms in it, and all sorts of stuff that are mood enhancers or mood stabilizers. Yeah. So yeah. It doesn't have St. John's wort in it, which is good because St. John's wort makes me want to kill myself.
Good job.
Yeah, weirdly. But yeah, it's got all that kind of stuff in it. There's one that is more kind of marketed at fashionable young ladies. And it comes in a kind of... Yeah. They don't sell it in this country, but it's available in the States. And I think you can get it in a can. I can't remember what it's called, but it also gives you a mild buzz / elevates your mood a little bit and is non-alcoholic. Well, very, very interesting.
Fun.
But yeah. Okay, I think we should break with an advert and then come back and get some listener feedback.
In today's fast-paced world, we can often be overwhelmed by all the stress. The pressure to look good, eat healthy, and constantly be at the top of your game can leave you feeling burnt out and out of your depth. That's why today's sponsor is so passionate about their products. You want to feel great, be at peace with nature, and believe in your power to succeed. But you don't have time for the long slog of self-discipline and don't have the patience for the latest wellness fad. If you're time poor but have easy access to cash, we have the solution you've been waiting for. Recreational drugs. We've got hard drugs, we've got soft drugs, drugs for the young professional, drugs for working mums, drugs for all ages. Simply pop over to the bit behind the multi-storey car park in Milton Keynes Town Centre. Your best bet is Tuesdays and Fridays about midnight. Recreational drugs. Bring plenty of cash and come alone. For a 10% discount, tell them you're mates with Gary from the Chippy.
Very good, very good.
That's so good. That's superb. Also, drugs for working mums. That made me very happy. Thank you so much to Recreational Drugs for sponsoring Beer Christianity.
Thanks so much.
Really appreciate it. Okay, we now have some listener feedback.
Woo!
Where should we start? I think we should probably start by playing a very short message from somebody who was responding to one of the early Beer Christianity, the newsletters.
Thanks. I enjoyed your perspective, your call on the coup, if I may. It dovetails very nicely with my social democratic view. Best love to you, Bruce.
That's Bruce. Bruce, thank you so much. We love you very much.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks for reading the newsletter and also for a number of bird puns in there, which I quite like because I was making some bird puns in that Beer Christianity, the newsletter, all about the very un-American coup. So that is cool. Laura, we also have a comment on a YouTube video that frankly perplexed me.
This is a comment from M85. So M85, if you're listening, please do get back in touch because we're slightly confused. We just want you to explain because I'm sure you've said some very good points and we're just super dumb. So please do please do get back in touch. But M85 commented on our annihilationism and the afterlife episode 41. On YouTube, you can comment on our YouTube channel. And he says, or they say, gender neutral.
I reckon it's a he.
Well, you don't know that. Let's be safe. Basically, large amounts of Christianity celebrate and enforce the searing of one's conscience and destruction of the mind, i.e., one's highest moral intuitions of the good, true, and beautiful. This is based on a dualistic understanding of the human being, which is seen not as creatures made by their creator with moral and rational faculties, but as blind and fallen beings totally incapable of discerning the truth. The end result is voluntarism? Voluntarism? We're going with voluntarism. Voluntarism. This is based on a dualistic understanding of the human being, which is seen not as creatures made by their creator with moral and rational faculties, but as blind and fallen beings with total incapable. Fuck! This is based on dualistic understanding of the human being, which is seen as not as creatures made by their creator with moral and rational faculties.
Voluntarism.
Fuck you! Let me get to the end of this comment. So many regrets of allowing myself to be made keeper of the comments. The end result is voluntarism. This view is closer to Gnosticism than biblical Christianity.
Malky, do you feel like your conscience has been seared and your mind has been what, Laura? What was the word?
Destruction of the mind.
And destroyed. Has your mind been destroyed and your conscience been seared by Christianity?
I think so. Wait a minute. I'm very much up for just interpreting anything the way I'd like to.
Yeah.
So maybe,
what do you think M85 is saying?
Maybe it's saying that my kind of traditional evangelical conservative ETC perspective was the old Siri mind version.
Yeah.
Conscience, eroded. Whereas we need to trust our own God-given feelings and instincts about what's good and right. You know what I'm saying?
So that Platonic dualism that is essentially Gnosticism that says the flesh is all bad and we need to basically get away from anything that is physical and natural and normal and become these kind of weird abstracted creatures. And then in that way, and that's the kind of Christianity, if it's encouraging that, then it will take us away from all things that are true and beautiful. It makes us feel like we're essentially shit, the total depravity thing focused on really, really heavily. And it's not actually biblical Christianity, which would probably have more of a chill vibe.
Yeah, that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean,
M85, get back in touch.
Yeah.
Comment again. We want
comment
to know.
Again. Unpack it for us.
Or go to SpeakPipe and send us 90 seconds of you explaining what you meant.
Yes, do that. SpeakPipe, which is speakpipe.com/shit. It says messages now. I've lost the address. Where is it?
Wait, every time.
I've got it. Speakpipe.com/beerchristianity. You can record a little message for us, and it's really, really simple. You just hit the button, and then you do it. And several others have already done it, and it's been lovely.
I mean, you should probably double check that speakpipe.com/shit is not a thing because people are going to go there now.
That's probably true. All right, we got a message from Paul Campbell, who actually sent an email to beerchristianity@yahoo.com and said, "Hi, Jonty and guys. I'm way behind on the podcast, but I felt prompted to share with you the fruit of tonight's insomnia. As well as visibility, the particle phany," I think this is what I was talking about, Malky, earlier when I said that would come up again, PHANY, connotes some kind of spatio-temporal movement. Appear, manifest, show, reveal, shine forth. Like the punchline of a joke or the prestige of a magical illusion. There is a sense of surprising suddenness that is able to make us gasp in laughter or shock. Epi frames this in terms of position or preposition: on, at, near, before, above. The whole word possesses the semantic scope or significance of a phenomenon which is both an event and the experience of it. As if the joke isn't funny until it has been laughed at, the trick isn't magic until it has been wondered at. Perhaps we forget that the incarnation didn't merely happen but was expressed. No doubt God could have suddenly been where he was not before. I don't know, whatever the opposite of vanished is. For all that Genesis shows God's Spirit hovering over the face of the waters, let there be light happens in a flash. The entire history of the cosmos, let alone the planet, let alone the people of Israel, is groaning in pregnancy towards Bethlehem, and yet amid the noise accompanying delivery, a single cry rings out that was not there before and silences everything else. At the end, a similar cry echoes around the hills of Golgotha. Indeed, there is a sense in which divinity always has the quality of immediateness, but there is also always the background against which the object comes into focus, the context within which the word has meaning. Wise men from afar affirm what Mary and Joseph could never have grasped, even at the word of Gabriel. I will never forget the place and time in which the thought came to me, fully formed and perfectly able to be rendered in speech. In the spiritual life, it is not so much that there are insignificant moments to which we therefore pay no attention, but that there are moments to which we pay no attention, which therefore become insignificant. God is never not there, and every single moment can be an encounter with the divine. But it isn't until I walk across a football field in Fontaine, Cameroon in July 2001 that I have an epiphany. Hope you're well, and in what is already shaping up to be a doozy of 2021, love and prayers, Paul. Paul, thanks so much for that message. That was glorious and very deep and very poetic, and I liked it very much.
Like, if that's how you're writing when you're suffering from insomnia, like, write a book when you're awake, man.
Yeah, take meth. Sleep less. What did you guys think of that?
I really liked it. The first time I read it, I was like, whoa, kind of blown away and thought, don't know if this guy's genius or a bit mad. But the second read through in Jonty's posh English accent, then I think it's legit. I love that stuff. I love playing with language. That's probably very dismissive, but yeah, understanding those parts of the language and that sort of the subtlety of that suddenness and all that kind of trying to put into words.
I probably should also have given the title earlier, because it says the title is Epiphany, and otherwise, just starting with, as well as visibility, the particle phany. It's Epiphany is what that was all about, in case you've missed that, listeners.
I'm intrigued to know if this was inspired by a particular episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't seem like we have spoken about anything this smart, so I feel like it's not. Yeah. which is lovely of you to just share it with us.
That's really great. What stood out for you, though?
Again, I like the kind of building on what Malky said of just like the playing with the language and stuff like that. Like, I think one of my favorite things when I'm reading the Bible is like I'm a real nerd for like close textual analysis. Like, I love that part of like studying literature and stuff like that. Like, I really do actually get down to that. So when you're talking about like, the meanings of words and how that affects reading it, and just like, I just really like that.
Yeah, it's that, I don't know if it's the same, but it reminds me of that tree falls in the forest thing that sort of doesn't happen in a vacuum. And it makes like God's relationship to humankind all the more sort of intense and personal. That the kind of incarnation happens in context and isn't. Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's something in the events of like Jesus coming and Jesus living and dying that's I don't know, manifests something in the real sense, like makes a part of God real to humanity.
Yeah, there's something.
It does something, that wouldn't have been if that didn't happen,
Well, when we're talking about the resurrection, it does in previous episodes, we and listening to that kind of Tom Wright stuff, talking about the resurrection makes you think about the incarnation and about how God may be omnipresent, but when he becomes incarnate, there's something so much more intense and powerful about that, not just in the sense of his identification with us, but in his identification with physical matter. There's something crazy about that, and it's not just the scandal of the cross, it's a scandal of the incarnation that is, I don't know, something very special and something very deep that I think we can plumb in Christian faith, like a God willing to become part of the material he created and to become constituted from that, not just to kind of like vaguely inhabit and drive around a human vessel. It's like, no, this is him. Yeah. I also really loved in the spiritual life, it is not so much that there are insignificant moments to which we therefore pay no attention, but that there are moments to which we pay no attention, which therefore become insignificant. That idea of being present, and that idea that even in the mundane, in everything, there is an opportunity to encounter God in every single moment, which I guess he's trying to tell us in Matthew 25 when he says, when I was hungry and you didn't feed me, and every time you turn somebody away hungry, you're turning me away, that there's an opportunity even in the despised of this world to meet God. But actually in between the people you love and the people you despise, there's a huge breadth where you could miss the presence and the blessing of God by choosing to think of it as insignificant and meaningless and worthless.
It's almost implies in a way that there are insignificant. I guess it's kind of contradictory of like the idea of there being insignificant encounters with God, which actually, of course, there are. Of course, if God is with you all the time, you're not gonna pick up on every little thing. There's no way. You're not gonna be. We can't pick up on every little thing that God's doing for us, because we are but human.
Yeah.
So actually, it's like,
and I am but human.
Yeah, you are but human. But yeah,
absolutely. Because I think it's so easy to miss him because he's there all the time. In the same way that, if you in lockdown, here's a parable. No, in lockdown, I've been spending a whole bunch of time with my wife, and it's been spectacularly lovely just to spend this much time with her. But I am a very needy person. So if I, at any point, and it happens a lot, become conscious that she is there and that this is a nice thing, I'll be like, hey, I love you. You're great. Stroke the hair, give her a hug. Hi. I'm unemployed currently. She is not. And I know that God isn't bothered by us paying attention to him all the time, but I think there is probably something a little bit unhinged in constantly being like, hi. But I think what you can be is quietly content and conscious of how nice this is, without every time you notice it having to, shout about it or write a sonnet or I don't know, make a thing out of it. I don't know. Or is that missing the kind of spirit of what Paul's saying here?
It's interesting because, over the last while, I've been getting into practicing mindfulness and meditation and trying to do some contemplative prayer. So in that sense, wherever I am, I can be still and don't have the words for it, fully experience God, or something. So yeah, for me, absolutely, it's about my state of mind and tuning into where God is and thinking and being mindful of God. I think in the past I would have had an extreme, like I needed to be at a conference or at an event or at a worship singing thing to experience God, or even have a big story, like a big testimony of some big miraculous thing, as opposed to just like quietly sitting and being at peace with God, which is what I'm all about these days. And that's just that daily practice is much more profound. But also, I guess I want to push back a little bit in terms of like there are uncontrollable weird shit where you encounter something of the divine or God that can't be just mustered up or manufactured.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he does kind of dip into this reality in a different way, not just in a kind of, isn't God nice kind of way. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, just I guess an unhelpful sort of, is that an old evangelical thing of like, God's not talking to me. Well, maybe you're not listening. Like putting it back on us and like, God's doing plenty, mate. It's your fault.
Yeah, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem here, but God's fine. There's one asshole in this situation and it's not God. Okay. So get out of my church. I should have been a pastor. Good day.
No, but I guess there is like, you can't manufacture those experiences as well. Like, the very nature of those things, like you can't plan for the incarnation. And I guess we all have little moments or whatever, things coming together or God doing something that seems beyond us or mysterious. And that's beyond our control. Is all I'm saying.
I liked what you were saying about the kind of the stillness as well, because that echoes what Laura was saying earlier about lockdown and not being able to necessarily go into church, not feeling able to go into church and communing with God on your own in that way. Do you hear echoes of that, Laura?
Yeah, for sure. I think. Yeah. Yes, as well.
Anyway, thanks a lot, Paul, for sending the message. If you want to send us a message, you can send it to beerchristianity@yahoo.com. Please do share the podcast with people who you think will like it, and do send us some messages on SpeakPipe. Also, you can message us on Twitter at beerchristianity. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us in all the places, really. If you want to get the links to where you can listen to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or YouTube, it's all at beerchristianity.libsyn.com. But if you just Google Beer Christianity Podcast, you will find us. Similarly, just search for us in your podcast client program thing app, and you'll find us there too. So thanks for listening. Really appreciate it. We'll be back really soon, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh yeah, and one final thing. If you wanted to know what the music was behind Malky's really quite appropriate advert for hard drugs, it was Escape by Scott Holmes, and you can find him on Scott Holmes Music at thefreemusicarchive.org.